In this lesson, we're going to begin discussing long document features. If you'd like to follow along, go under your File menu to Open. And in the Working Files folder, go into Chapter number 10 and select a file called The Ins and Outs of Linking Text Frames, and just click Open. Linking frames in InDesign to make text flow from frame to frame is far easier than in any other layout program. Let me show you how simple it is. I'm just going to go to my selection tool and click on my first frame in that second column on the left page. And you can see that there's an import to the upper left in the frame and something called an outport to the lower right in the frame. And in the outport, there's a red plus mark. That means there's overset text. There's too much text to be contained in the frame. Well, how do I make that text flow into my next frame in the next column? If I click on the outport, it's going to pick up the text. If I go over the top of some other frame, it'll show a pointer with a link. If I'm not over the top of a frame, it doesn't show the link. Let me go over the top of that frame again and just click. And I've actually linked the two frames together. You can see a text thread going from the outport of the first frame to the import of the second frame. If you're not seeing text threads, you want to go under your View menu to Extras, Show Text Threads. Why don't we do that again? I'm going to click on the outport of my second frame, go up over the top of the smaller frame in my next column, and just click again when I see that pointer with a link. Great, but I'm out of frames, and I see that there's still a plus mark in the output. What do I do? Well, why don't we try this? I'm going to click on the output to pick up the text and go to the top margin in my next column and just click. And it created a new text frame and the text flowed into it. But there is another way to do that as well. If I go to my output and click to pick up the text, I could also do this. I can go to my next column and just click and drag to make a text frame. Let me go all the way down the bottom. And finally, I have enough frames to contain all of my text. But what would happen if I deleted one of the frames? I'm going to click on my second to the last frame with my selection tool and just delete it. If I reselect my frames, you'll see that the text thread is now going from the output of this smaller frame to the top of the frame in my last column, as if the frame in between the two never existed. So it just reflows the text into the next available frame. But is there a way that I can add a frame between these two frames? Well, I could click on either the output of the frame before or the import of the frame after. I'm just going to do that. It picks up the text, and I'm just going to go anywhere between my two margins and click and drag. And the text will flow back up into it. Very cool. But I wonder, is there a way to actually create a frame that's before my first frame? Well, because this feature is so intuitive, what I'm going to try is click on the import of my very first frame, pick up the text, and then click and drag in my first column. And the text will flow back up into that new first frame. And the text really is flowing. If I were to make any one of these frames shorter by clicking and dragging on the bottom bounding box point, the text will flow back up into the other frames automatically. In the next lesson, we're going to continue discussing long document features.